Deep striking 40k is fun. I really enjoy it. It's one of my favourite mechanics of the game. A really well-timed deep strike, a well-positioned unit coming in from reserve could completely fuck up your opponent's game plan and completely swing the flow of the battle into your favour. That Trigon Prime coming out of that tunnel, bringing with him that squad of Gene Stealers, you make that charge, and like a bad rash, those Gene Stealers are in your back and they just won't go away. Plus, they stab and hurt quite a lot. You know, those Grey Knight Paladins could come down and absolutely smash a unit holding an objective, thereby denying your opponent that crucial victory point that they needed. Okay? It's a really fun mechanic, and what I really love using in the game. Sorry, just dropped something on the floor there. Right. Now, they're called strategic reserves in 9th, and they're going to be working slightly differently. Well, not differently, more of the same, but there's going to be additions. Right. We don't know what exactly can and cannot enter strategic reserves. Okay, we don't know if this will be able to affect Titanic units and things like that. So there may be caveats to this in the future. We don't know. But, as it stands right now from this preview, you can place any model you want in strategic reserves, even if it doesn't have an ability like Gene Steel Cult Ambush or Terminator's Teleport Strike. But, there always is a but, you've got to pay command points for that privilege, depending on how hard that unit is that you're putting into reserves. Squad of 10 Gaunts, cheap as chips, not very threatening, low power level, 1 command point to put down in reserves. You got Squad of Custodian Guard, or Tricked Out to the Bollocks. That's going to be pricier. I don't know the power level of Custodian Guard, but I imagine there's somewhere along the 30 to 39 marker, so 4 command points. And as you can see, the more units you put into strategic reserves with those abilities, the more toll it'll take on your command point pool. So there's the trade-off, boys and girls. Do you want to have those command points for stratagems, or do you want to be able to set up some absolutely mad shenanigans with strategic reserves? The choice is yours. And as you can see from that little chart they've released there, those are your sort of the price points and power levels of what you need to do. So obviously 40, 49, 5, it goes up and it goes up. We don't know how high it goes up, but, you know, I'm assuming that if you're going to want to place a Titanic unit reserve, if you have an ability to do that, it's going to cost you a lot in command points. But it might be worth it to have a Titan come on from a board edge and absolutely smash things. Very nice. Now, there is also another caveat to this. If you hold back on strategic reserves, you will have better mobility of where they go in the game. So as it stands from this little graph here, Battle Round 1, they can't come in. So not unlike the Deep Strike is right now, as it stands with Deep Strike right now, you can come in but only within your deployment zone. But strategic reserves, Battle Round 1, no strategic reserves for you. If you choose to bring them in Battle Round 2, they can be set up wholly within 6 of any battlefield edge apart from your enemies and not in your enemy deployment zone. So essentially, 2/3 of the board. But right, Battle Round 3 plus, they can be set up within 6 inches of any battlefield edge, but not the enemy's battlefield edge. So you can be set up in your enemy's deployment zone. See? Rewarding the patient hunter. All of a sudden, you could have that squad of G Steel just rock up in your enemy deployment zone, near the back, near an objective, and all of a sudden you've got to worry about that. Okay, and the usual blurb sort of applies after that. You cannot be set up within 9 of enemy models, so you cannot. What's that? Sorry, to my glasses off there for a second. You can't make a normal move, advance, or fall back. You can charge, so that's still a thing. You've always counted as moved for the purposes of heavy weapons and any rules that affect that. And any strategic reserve unit not set up on the battlefield by the end of the battle counts as destroyed. So, you know, if you think you can hold units back to deny you any victory points, then no, you can't. They will be counted as destroyed, thereby awarding your opponent victory points. At least I'm assuming that's what that is to do. So that's pretty good. Now, a while ago, GW mentioned something about being able to appear on your enemy's battlefield edge and being able to essentially deep strike or arrive from reserves right into combat, and they've clarified this here. Lying in ambush. Strategic reserves aren't all about outflanking the enemy though. Should your opponent overcommit with their initial attack, it's possible to deliver a punishing counterblow with your reinforcements. Strategic reserve units can't enter normally be set up within 9 inches of enemy models, but if you set them up within 1 inch of your own battlefield edge, they can be set up within this distance, and even within 1 inch engagement range of enemy models. If they do so, they count as having made the charge move, and your opponent will be unable to fire Overwatch against them. Now, I'm querying that. So, you've got to set up that unit within 1 inch of your own battlefield edge. And if you want to place them within 1 inch of an opponent, how many models are you going to have in engagement range of that opponent if you've all got to be within 1 inch of your own battlefield edge? Does that mean just one model has got to be set up within 1 inch? Because the way it's implied here, that you're just going to have like a flat conga line of dudes just like set up within 1 inch of your, like, you know, am I reading that wrong? Set up within 1 inch of your own battlefield edge. So that is a flat line essentially. So you can just like butt one head of that flat line up against your opponent. So what, you can have max 2 models in engagement range? I think they need to clarify that a bit more, because unless I'm reading it completely fucking wrong, that doesn't seem that great. Okay? Okay. Now, the other preview. Now, this one is also interesting. For various reasons. Right. The morale phase. Basically, this phase is to test whether your warriors hold their nerve or they run away shrieking like cowards, soiling themselves and crying to whatever thing passes as their mummy in the 41st millennium. Fair enough, okay? It's not duck. It's like an erection at a funeral. You don't really know what to do with it. Right now, the way I play with my army, if I have to interact with the morale phase at all, something's gone terribly wrong. And I feel that right now in the game, there's lots of ways to completely ignore this phase. Which is weird, because you want to be able to give every playstyle a fair shake. Now, whether that works out in practice is another thing to be seen, because we all know shooting will always beat combat because you don't have to have that interaction to be able to work. The same with the morale phase. If you want to build like a Night Lord's army that reaps a heavy toll in the morale phase, you're never going to be able to beat a shooting army if that's your shtick, if that's your gimmick. But you want this phase to have an impact. You don't want it to be like a token phase that no one really engages with. Otherwise, what's the point of having a morale phase at all? Okay, so here we go. As it stands, this is how the morale phase works. The morale test equals you roll d6 plus the number of models destroyed this turn. Okay, an unmodified one, always a success, no models flee. If the morale test exceeds the unit's leadership, 1 model flees and all of the models must take combat attrition tests. Now, I don't know if that's true. I always thought that whatever number you exceed your leadership by, that's how many models flee. But unless that's like a change they've made for 9th. So as it stands, if you fail morale test right now, 1 model runs away. Okay? The difference is, and they say that here, that that's not the end of the morale phase. You've got to take what is known as a combat attrition test. Roll a dice for each remaining model in the unit. On a 1, it flees. And if your unit is below half strength, you subtract 1 from the result. So on a 1 or a 2, your models flee. So now your morale test has got like a double-edged sword. You've got the initial morale test where you can potentially lose a model. No big whoop. Squad of 30 gaunts, who cares? And you've got the second wave of morale, where potentially, if you roll badly, a whole shit ton of your models could run away. I don't know how this will work out. I honestly don't. I can't see it working or performing in my head, because like I said, there's so many ways, so many armies have gimmicks to avoid morale tests or you know, get buffs to morale tests, things like that. It's got to the point where I have to remind myself if there's a morale phase. It's like, it's never normally for myself, because obviously synapse, but if I'm playing like Chris or Jamie, it's like, is there a morale test this turn? You know, it's like that. It's like a throwaway sort of phase of the game for us at the moment. So if you're making it a more involved section of the game for armies who rely on, scoring hits and taking inflicting casualties in the morale phase, as it were, then you've got to be having ways to sort of combat those bubbles. I don't know. I'm assuming this, like all of Ninth, has been playtested to death, so it will work. It's just right now I'm struggling to see how this is going to be any more like not a throwaway phase. But again, it'll have to come out in the wash. We'll have to wait and see. That's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Do all the stuff below. Thumbs up, thumbs down, leave a comment. And I will catch you all next time. See you later.